And so you had two Western teams, which they were afraid of. At that point, it was going to be so it was Edmonton and Winnipeg for the Grey Cup, which was very odd for a league that looks forward to the East and West. But that's what happened at the time. Here is a promo of that Western final. But these were good days, and these were good Blue Bomber teams.
Autumn is hunting season. The catch is gray. The contending captors are blue. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Rough, raw, and ready with the ultimate victory so close they can taste it.
They were here to win.
They've hungered for it, and match for match they hunted down.
The play calling has been good by Tom.
The beauty and the beast. Designed for maximum audience participation.
Yellow.
I'm looking for the one and only Chris Walby. It's Mike Richards calling from rawmikeRichards.com.
How are you, my brother? What's going on?
Oh, we just showed a promo of the 1990 Eastern Final, and people are like, no, you're mixing that up. No, it's Winnipeg. No, I get that part. But that's when people haven't seen it, they still have to get their head around, because remember that's you. So you go to a Grey Cup. And it's Edmonton. It's West versus West, which made people kind of feel a little strange. But in some ways, they were the two best teams that year.
That's what it was. I mean, I still remember the day. I think we were in the airport, and when Montreal folded, and we had to come back, and they had to reorganize the whole league, and we find out, we're out in the Eastern Conference now. But it was those times are crazy. A lot of good times. But I tell you what, it probably benefited us a lot too, because the West was always tough. And at that time, there was a little bit of a rebuilding going on that Eastern Conference, so I'm sure it helped us a little bit in our couple seasons over there.
But, Chris, that also tells you, when I look back at those times, and some of those times that you talk about teams folding, you got to move stuff around, the CFL almost appears, to me anyways, light years from that time in terms of organization, strength. It's just not even the same universe.
You know what? I'm just liking the way we're moving. I'm a huge fan of Randy Ambrosie, the commissioner. I think he's done a great job. I think he's open to ideas. I love the fact that nothing's set in stone. They'll look at things and they'll reevaluate after a certain period of time and see if it worked, if it didn't work. That's what you got to have. I mean, he's a guy that I love when you bring in guys that actually come from the game. They played in the game, they understand the game, and they got that love for the game. Sometimes we're so caught up in just getting the right businessman that we forget that we're missing that one component. And they can identify with the fans, the common fan, who want the same thing. We all want to have a great game. And listen, right now the league is probably the strongest it's ever been. I hope the heck they get that team out there in Halifax. I'd be loving it. It's all thumbs up for me right now, buddy.
Yeah, it certainly is. Chris, great talking to you this morning. David Bassel here. Last week, we talked to Rod Peterson, the voice of the Rough Riders. So at the end of it, and he knows who I like, right? He knows where I'm from.
I know where this conversation is going.
Oh, come on, Mike.
I know where the conversation's going. It's heated.
It is. So I asked him at the end, Rod, give me your top five in the West Division. And of course, he names the Rough Riders at number one. He goes on to pick the Bombers to finish fifth, and I almost choked on my saliva. How in the world could anybody think a Bomber team, which I think they're good enough to go to the Grey Cup, how would he possibly say the Bombers could be a fifth-place team in the West?
I'm really surprised by that. I saw that I guess they did a bit of a analysis with all these guys. I found only 3 guys from Winnipeg were asked to actually submit votes. So, obviously that's a little biased at some points. But, no, you can't. I mean, I don't even understand how you can even come up with that logic, because you look at where they were last year. They've made steps. Yes, they've made it to 2 Westerns. Sammy's, and they've lost both Westerns to BC and Edmonton. But this team, to me right now, I thought when they signed Darian Durant, I thought, great move. They've got a guy that I really like at backup. He's not, he can help out. Then he goes and everybody goes, well, all doom and gloom. Then we go after Enoch Mwamba. He signs in Montreal. But I think the biggest coup now, obviously, or one of them anyway, is the fact that we signed Adam Bighill. I mean, when you get that to me was the hole in the ship. And so when you got a guy like that in the middle who can play as good as he can, and he's a tremendous leader. I mean, I watched this guy when he was in BC. I know he's got a chip on his shoulder because he really felt that he should have made the Seattle Seahawks or New Orleans Saints, wherever he was. But, I mean, I love the fact he's here. Him and that other kid, Chandler Fenner, that we stole from BC. Boy, I tell you, we got some damn good linebackers, these boys.
Yeah, certainly. You mentioned Durant, and Durant leaves. He's not in camp, didn't even show up, blah, 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 takes his money and run. Are you scared about the backup position if something happens to Matty Nichols?
Well, you always are. I mean, I think you have to be. But, it's funny because, I mean, when you watch exhibition, and listen, that exhibition game, I had to stick pins and needles in my fingers to keep awake sometimes. It's so boring. But having said that, you got to look at the kid, that Chris Trebler kid, who came off the charts.
Yes.
This is the guy that they said, wow, who is this guy? South Dakota. Yeah, okay. And everybody's been talking all camp, Alex Ross. And he goes out and just basically 1 for 8. And this kid comes in and orchestrates drives, takes off with the ball. That was his only blunder. He fumbled after a 20-yard run. But, I mean, he's 10 for 10. I mean, I don't think you can draw it up any better than that. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of playing time these guys get in BC, because BC looks pretty dang good this year too. So I'm looking forward to the next challenge because, I mean, obviously Edmonton, you got to temper the victory. Edmonton only brought 5 starters. I hate exhibition season. I really do. I understand it's a necessary evil, but no, not a big fan of it.
We're in conversation with Chris Walby here on rawmike.com, watching either on the website itself or the dedicated YouTube channel. We hope you subscribe from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. You probably had a chance to see the brief appearance by Johnny Manziel. My take was it, Chris, regardless of what the name was on the back of that jersey, which is hard to do at this point. But if that's the guy that I'm looking at to try to make the team, to me it was just sort of his understanding and his I guess his resolve in the pocket a little bit, and just if he felt comfortable. And I thought he had all those things. I'm not making any comparisons. I need to see more, but I didn't hate what I saw for sure.
No, I actually, it's funny when all that talk was going on in the beginning, and his agent was going to ask that he wants to be the highest paid guy in the CFL, and obviously June Jones said he'll be the best player ever to play in the CFL, which I think, are you being spiking your coffee because you got guys like Doug Flutie and Matt Dunning, all these other guys that played ahead of him. But you're right. I like Johnny Manziel. I like what he brings to this league. I found it very interesting that we never do press conferences after a game, and there's so much media attention on this poor man. But, yeah, 9-11, 80 yards. I thought he was composed. And I loved one thing at the end of the game when he got mad at the TO boys, and he said, listen, I'm not going to be pushed around by you guys. I'm here for the real – I love the attitude. I always want a quarterback. We used to call Dunnigan the peacock, right? I mean, he's got to have that. Whenever Dunnigan came into the locker room and he started, his legs got even more bow-legged, and then he just had this. He would get his offense. His Texas slang would just be going. I said, "Oh, we're in for a big game. We're in for a big game." When the peacock feathers comes out, it's good. So I like Johnny Manziel. I'm hoping the kid lights it up, but I hope he plays well. I mean, he's here for 2 years. I think it's great for the league.
Well, it's funny that you say that because one of my memories of Matt that I'll always carry with me was his performance as an Argo when he goes into that Grey Cup in Winnipeg against Calgary, and I knew that he had a lot of shoulder issues. I mean, Ricky Foggy played a lot of that year, but when he came in with that Marine. That Arlie Ermy Marine haircut, looking like he was an extra in platoon. I said, you know what? I think Calgary's in trouble because that means he's coming to town. There's the gunslinger, and he's going to go for his gun. To me, that was one of the great performances. Maybe people don't see it that way, but you have to realize. I mean, they were sticking him with needles in the middle of the half on that frozen field. He still came out. That was your stud quarterback just a complete. Look it up in the dictionary. There was his picture.
Well, I just love. You're right. I mean, having the opportunity to play with him for 2 years or 3 years. He took us to the Cup 2 years, and I still say it to this day. I bet my mortgage on in 1993 if he doesn't, blow his ACL or Achilles, we win the Cup that year because we had pounded Edmonton all year, and then we go into the last game. And no offense to Sammy Garza, slinging Sammy Garza with his black socks. God love the guy. I'm like, who wears black socks in a game? But he's got black socks on. That threw me off. I'm like, hey, buddy, white socks. But you gotta look good, man. You feel good, you look good, you'll do good. Don't put your dang church socks on. But anyway, Sling and Sammy went out there. We had a tough game. We ended up losing to Damon Allen, who's no slouch. And but I mean, Dunny to me is pound for pound one of the toughest sons of bitches. Oh, I can't say that. Well,
you can. Yeah, you can. On this show, you
can,
Chris.
Sure, you can.
Well, I won't say it though. Anyway, but I think I got a lot of respect for. I've been very blessed to play with a lot of great guys. I mean, you're talking, Tommy Clements, Dieter Brock, where they're putting a book out, I guess, this fall on. There's a lot of guys, but I have to say that if you want to talk about toughness, and I agree with you there, boy, Matt Dunnigan was right at the top of the list.
You know what? It's funny you say that because we were talking about Tom Clements last week, and of course the name Dieter Brock always comes up because he's one of my favorite Bombers. I still have his jersey. When that trade was made, Chris, what was going on at that time? Just in the locker room, thinking, and it's hard to tell a modern day CFLer because you're trading a Hall of Fame quarterback for a Hall of Fame quarterback in the middle of a season, and the two end up meeting later on in the playoffs. What goes through your mind as a player on that team, a big time player on that team, when that sort of thing goes down?
I think the first part is shock. I mean, obviously you being with Dieter, and Dieter's, he's the guy. I mean, this guy could throw. They used to say he could throw a ball through a car wash and not get it wet. I mean, he got a football stuck in Vernon Paul's face mask. I've never seen that before. Still, he just could throw the football, and he was so strong on his knees, 90 yards. Smart guy, a great team guy, and then of course, he fell out with a couple comments about our zoo, and Cal Murphy, and Cal. I'll tell you, Cal. Well, one day you should talk about Cal. Cal was one tough SOB. I'll tell you what, he didn't put up with any of that stuff, and if he thought you were falling off or you weren't part of the team, he would get rid of you. And it didn't matter. It just showed you. It didn't matter who it was. But to get a guy like Tommy Clements, he comes in there with his briefcase. I thought he was a lawyer. I thought he was a team lawyer. I was like, who's this guy? He's like 90 pounds soaking wet with the briefcase that's as almost tall as him. He comes in there and you're watching this guy, and oh my God, what a presence in the huddle. He's one of the only guys that told me to shut up all the time. I'd be like, we got this guy. Run it over this guy. I can kill this guy. Run it. Shut up, Walby. Shut up, Walby. Do your damn job. Just shut your mouth. You would never think, that he had a little bit different verbs when he was putting in there too. So I'm just gonna. But anyway, he was good. But yeah, you were shocked. But you know what? When you go 1-for-1, and then like you say, have the ability to meet them in the Grey Cup game.
Yeah.
And we're down 17-3, and I'm thinking, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then of course we had such a good team with Joe Pop and all these guys, and my Polish friend Stan Mikołajs with the
number 77.
He still tells me about that. It gets the yards get bigger every year.
We're in conversation with the great Chris Walby here on rawmikerichards.com from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. I saw a lot of obviously negativity about Johnny Manziel and all the attention and everything else. I said, well, I'll tell you what, as a CFL fan, I said, if they feel it necessary on ESPN and Fox and NFL Live to start taking a look at the depth chart on different teams in the Canadian Football League, and I'll be honest, they also talked about players who came from here, and of course we know how many, including the Jeff Garcias. I mean, even Cam Wake that year. And I think that, any exposure the league gets, I think is good exposure. And if Johnny can play ball up here, I'm not one of those that thinks he's going to be a Doug Flutie. You have to realize, we know just how good you have to be Doug Flutie. Yeah. But if he can come up and be competent, and let's say he does get a chance to go in the NFL, I've never had a problem with that. I didn't have a problem with that with Warren Moon or Joe Theismann. You mentioned both those quarterbacks, Tom Clements and Dieter Brock. They both ended up at some point going to the NFL. As a CFL fan, no problem with this. None.
No, I agree with it. I'm actually, like I said, I agree with you. I hope the guy really turns it up. I think he will. I love his attitude. I know there's been a lot of negativity going associated with him, I guess because of his past, but let the past be the past. But I'll tell you this, quarterbacks that come up here, you see it all the time. You guys have a hard time. I remember the first guy I ever played with was Vince Ferragamo in Montreal, and he just could not adapt to the game. I mean, the only reason I used to walk with Vince Ferragamo because the girls would scream, right? They'd walk and go, look at, I go, oh boy, man. Even the fat guy's got love here, man. It's a great thing. But he just, and then he went back to the NFL and played well again. So there's something to be said about, the difference in the game, the 12th man, the motion, all this stuff. Some guys can adjust and some guys can't. I think Johnny M will adjust.
Yeah, I think so too. I was going to ask you, so I'll ask you the same question I asked Peterson last week. Your West Division, the order you have it right now, and I know it's June the 5th, so, anything can happen between now and the start of the season in about 10 days' time. Who do you have 1 through 5, Chris?
Oh, boy, that's tough. I'll have to tell you, I actually like Saskatchewan. I like what they did.
Yeah.
They have a weird way of doing things. They'll bring a a receiver and make a defensive end. They'll bring a linebacker and make him a quarterback. Chris Jones I tell you, I don't know what he's doing. He must have well, that's another show. But anyway, yeah, I still think I know it's going to sound biased, and I know I'm going to sound like a clone of Peterson, but I do believe the Bombers have everything in their core to be number one this year. I think Calgary's going to be tough. I think Calgary's going to be in tough. I just don't see Calgary. I think they're going to miss Messam. I think they're going to miss some of the other guys. I think they're going to miss I did a function with Charleston Hughes, and boy, he's got to tell you, when the first day he goes back there, it's going to be ugly for that quarterback, Will Levi, because he is built and he is ready and he is angry. So I just think Calgary's going to be in trouble. Edmonton, you got to like Mike Riley. That's the thing. He's just a stud. But I think Saskatchewan third. I think we're first. And then I think it's a toss between – I think BC is going to be a lot better than a lot of people think. The farewell party for Wagwano. I just think the way they're doing it, and this kid, where do you find this kid? Ricky Lloyd comes in, he throws 3 touchdown passes and a half.
True.
I love it. To me, I get excited about it. I want the regular season to start, though, where it starts to mean something. But I do get interested in this part because the second exhibition game is where guys make or break, right? So you get up Sunday morning and I go to my computer and I say, okay, let's see some of the chops. Because there's going to be some surprises. And Winnipeg, for one, has got a lot of big-time receivers. Is Weston Dressler in trouble this year? Who knows? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some things happening here, boys. I'll tell you, it's going to be really interesting, as it is every training camp.
Well, you mentioned Calgary. I just think that the weight of what they have done, and you know what it's like. You're playing on a team that's expected to win. You've been pretty much the best team for the last, 5 or 6 years. You go to a Grey Cup where you should win. You find ways to lose it. You got a fan base that's probably crossing their arms, and they won't be interested until you get to a Grey Cup, and still they won't be interested until you put it over your head. Emotionally, and I think, if I can say it this way, spiritually, to keep that going, that's a tough task for Calgary. Really tough.
Well, I just want, what does Dave Dickinson tell the team? Okay, guys, our goal is to get to the Grey Cup. Well, we did that twice. Yeah, I agree with you. The mental part of it, to get over that hump now, to get there, it's so hard to go there back-to-back and then to lose the way they did both times. And I love Johnny Huffnagel. I think Johnny Huffnagel is one of the smartest cats out there. I had the opportunity again to play with him as well. Hung him on a coat hook a couple of times because he pissed me off. But I actually like Johnny, and I think he's gonna. They'll find guys, and Dave Dickinson is one of the smartest minds in football. He really is. But I just don't think. And I know there's always that progression where guys get to a certain age, and salary is always an impact in the CFL, where they get rid of people and they kind of and they hope the younger kids can come in and play as well. But I don't know. There's something about Calgary this year, and I think it's a hangover from the last 2 Grey Cups. I also think it's psychological. I just don't see them being the Calgary of old this year.
I agree 100%. It's a tough run. Hey, Chris, always great when you can join us on the show. Hopefully we can do this throughout the summer. Love talking ball.
Anytime.
And really loved having you on the show today, my friend.
Anytime, guys. I enjoy it with you guys. Swear to God, it's fun. And let's get together again, and we'll talk. And I'm sure it's going to be interesting as the year starts to kick off.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris.
All right, guys. Have a great day out there in Tito.
That is Chris Walby joining us here this morning. Always does such a great job.
What? We just become best friends? Yep.